Hey everyone, it's Heather Nichols. Today I have a Christmas in July card to share with you, as well as a peek of one of the options for the holiday personalized stamp pop-up shop that's going on for a limited time. For the Christmas card, I'll be using the Twiggy Background stamp. I'll also be using the Handlettered Holiday stamp set, specifically the Merry and Bright sentiment. I'll be using the Holiday Bloomers die collection. And then for ink colors, I'll be using mocha, avocado, and olive. I'll be adding the ink colors to my project with my blender brushes. I'll also be doing some embossing, and so I have my Versamark ink, my powder tool, and white embossing powder. I'll also use my heat tool. I'm using the 100% wool felt in moss and cranberry. I have chocolate truffle liquid watercolor and sugar cube ink refill along with a water brush to add a few speckles to my project. I'll be using multimedia matte for a liquid adhesive, and then I have some little glitter gems that I'm using that are from my crafty stash. I'm starting off with a piece of toffee cardstock, and I'll be doing some ink blending onto the cardstock with my blender brush. I'm starting off with avocado ink, and I'll be blending all the way around the cardstock and leaving the very center so that the toffee cardstock shows through. Then next I'll go in with olive ink, and I'll blend that, not quite as far in as I did the avocado ink, so that I get a nice blend from dark to light. After I've got the olive laid down, I'll do a little bit of mocha ink blended just around the edges of the cardstock. I really enjoy giving my cards a rustic look, and that always includes adding some spatters. I'm adding some sugar cube ink refill and some chocolate truffle liquid watercolor to an acrylic block. I'll pick the color up with a water brush. I'll tap that water brush over my finger, and that will add spatters to my project. Next, I'll be stamping with the Twiggy Background stamp. I'm setting that up in my MISTI. I will close the lid of the MISTI to pick up the stamp, and I'm inking that stamp up with mocha ink. I'll stamp the impression onto the grid paper in the MISTI first so I can see where the image is going to fall, and then I will use a little bit of adhesive to attach my cardstock piece into the MISTI so that I can stamp the Twiggy background onto it. I'll ink up the stamp again with mocha ink, and I'll close the lid of the MISTI to stamp the Twiggy background onto my piece of cardstock. Next, I'll be embossing the Merry and Bright sentiment in the center of the wreath, so I will set the stamp down where I want it to fall into my wreath, and then I'll close the lid of the MISTI to pick up the stamp on the lid. I'll use my powder tool and brush it over the entire surface of my background. That will eliminate static, and so that embossing powder doesn't stick all over the place. I'll ink up the stamp with Versamark ink and stamp it onto my background, and then I'll add white embossing powder to the stamped image. I'll use my heat tool to melt the embossing powder and emboss the sentiment. To embellish my card, I die cut the holly leaves and the berries from the Holiday Bloomers die collection from 100% wool felt. I used moss for the leaves, the holly leaves, and I used the cranberry for the berries. I wanted to add a little extra bling to the berries, and I know you probably have a container like this full of all sorts of pearls, rhinestones, you name it. I pulled everything out of my jar that was red and that would work for a holly berry, and then I ended up choosing some glittery embellishments to add to my berries for a little extra sparkle. I used a liquid adhesive to attach my felt embellishment to my project. I'm using multi-matte medium here, but you can use other liquid adhesives that you might have, and that will work as well. I'm adding my stamped piece to a cherry pop card base. On the back of the card base, I stamped with my personalized stamp. That's one of the options for the holiday personalized stamp pop-up shop. Our personalized stamp pop-up shops are available for a limited time in the Tailored Expressions web store. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas in July card that I shared today, and I hope you learned something new. You can get the supplies to create this project in the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you next time.